And we are live. So, welcome to episode 248 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got John K. Alvarez. Thank you for joining us. We've got some reunions going on here because we have some people in the stream I haven't seen for quite a while, and John is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. And we've also got Morgan Scorpion joining us over there in the UK. Hello, it's nice to see everybody again. You know, it was about a year or so ago, I think I was talking to Bill, and he was saying that, you know, one of the perks of one of the things that he appreciates about the show is that it provides an opportunity for people to see each other where otherwise it just would not occur, which has nothing to do with me. It's just, you know, people joining in. And so, you know, my chance to see Julia or to see John, who I haven't seen in months, you know, it makes things a lot easier. It makes things a lot easier. So I'm glad for that. And I'm glad to see you both.
It's nice to see you too, good sir.
Yeah, man. You know, it's starting to get a little chilly out. So I got my sweatshirt. Iced coffee season is officially over. It is, time to get warm. That's what time it is.
I gotta ask you, Mike, did you see the lights tonight?
I got Ryan's text. Apparently the northern lights were happening here in the east coast of America in the Northeast. And I caught the tail end of something. It looked like it wasn't like flashing lights or anything like you see in the movies. It was just like some dim red in the skyline. It was about to fade out. So I caught the last second or two of it. Did you get to see it?
Came all the way down to Cape May, man. We had purple and violet skies.
Oh, very nice. I was watching this film, so I missed the whole damn thing. And then when I found out it was over. Hold on a second. We got Eric is here in the comments saying, "Hey, welcome back to the show, Julia and John." Yes, absolutely.
How are you, Eric?
What's happening, Eric? So the Halloween scene, the spooky season is upon us. Last year, the theme was witchcraft. And we did a number of good films that I enjoyed talking about with a variety of people. This year, I decided the theme was going to be haunted houses and ghost stories. So what better film to kick it off with than 1963's The Haunting, directed by Ray Wise. If you guys are ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's go, go, go.
Boogie Woogie. So, Eric was kind enough. Every once in a while, I'll get a gift package from Eric, and then I'll send something to him, and he's due for something soon. But he sent me like this amazing gift care package of films, and one of them was this 4-pack with Spencer Tracy, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Freaks, Vincent Price, House of Wax, and The Haunting, which I had never seen before. It keeps popping up on like the all-time great horror films lists everywhere that I see it. Or we'll watch a list, which I usually do right around this time of the year, the top 100, you know, whatever. And finally got a chance to screen it right before we went on, which is why we're 30 minutes late. So, yeah, there you go. I thought it'd be like some 75-minute movie or like 70-minute movie. It wasn't. It was a full 2-hour film, which is now available on Tubi. So this is available for everybody to watch. I can't recommend it enough. Let's just get right into it. Well, John, what did you think of The Haunting. What did you think? Did you get a chance to screen it?
I actually got a chance to screen it. Excuse me. And I've actually seen this movie several times throughout my life. Michael, I know you and I may have talked about this when we were in college, or maybe with my brother used to talk about it. The house that I'm from a very large family. I'm the 9th out of 10 kids. And the house that my mother and father and the kids that were born before me moved into about 3 months before I was born was a registered haunted house in Philadelphia, back in the city of Philadelphia. It was built in the early 1800s. This was 1964, right before I was born. And there were 5 people that were killed in the house, and it had hauntings and what have you. Growing up, like I remember telling my parents when I did like my first sleepover with a friend of mine, I got to spend the night at their house.
Right.
They said, "How was Matthew's house?" And I said, "It was great, but his house is broken because it didn't do the stuff our house did."
Gotcha.
The cold spells, there's all these things in this room and that they display in this movie, we experienced firsthand. And it's also one of my favorite movies because it got the biggest scare out of my mother and my 3 sisters who were watching it in the 70s on television, like when ABC or CBS would show these movies.
Sure.
And my brother walked in one particularly scary moment and said, "Hey guys," stepping into the room, they screamed and beat the hell out of them with pillows because they got the hell. It's one of those old atmospheric type ghost stories that even to this day, over 50 years later, it works. I mean, 60 years later, it works. It's a genuinely great ghost story.
All right, let's move it on to Julia. What did you think? And a follow-up, do you believe in haunted houses?
Okay, firstly, this is in my top 10 favorite horror movies
Well, there you go.
and has been for a very long time. I think I was 13, 14 or 15 when I saw it on television in would have been in Exeter at the time, my hometown. And it just blew me away. It's one of the scariest movies ever made. It has such an intense atmosphere of terror about it from the beginning right through to the end. It has stellar performances from everybody, including Russ Tamblyn, which surprised me, probably wrongly. And it's the book which I read later came as a great disappointment to me because I don't think it's nearly as good. And it's a haunting movie. It haunts you. The lines stay with you. There's sheer genius in it because instead of trying to frighten you with lunatic waving a chainsaw or jump scares, well, I suppose there's 1 or 2 jump scares in it. But instead of doing all of that, it makes you afraid of wallpaper. That is the scariest wallpaper in movies.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Go ahead. Keep going.
As for haunted houses, well, we don't know everything that's right in. On one level, I don't believe in it because I'm supposed to be a scientific, rational person, and scientific, rational people don't believe in haunted houses. But like Lady Cynthia Asquith, I don't believe in ghosts, but I am scared of them.
Okay.
And as some of you may have heard, 4 days after my dear friend, a dear friend of mine died, I heard his voice call my name as I was waking up. And ever since then, I don't dare say there's no such thing as ghosts. So if there is such a thing as ghosts, it's possible for a house to be haunted. There you go.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, fine. Okay. I love this movie. It's very smart. It's a very smart movie. The fact that they hit, for me, I think what grabbed me was the fact that the main character is such an unreliable narrator, the Eleanor character. because she is someone who is, I would consider to be unstable. And so you put an unstable person in a very high pressure situation.
Yeah.
And, so much of the film depends on her inner monologue. So there's no like guessing, is she, you're hearing her thoughts, as she, enters the house or steals the car or, starts to go through these things or, that Theo's reading her mind, which I thought was just such an easy, like they didn't try suspension of disbelief at all. They just automatically let Theo just sort of voice some of her thoughts that you weren't hearing. It's just fantastic. The men, sort of in, traditional roles, as the protectors, something you don't see that much anymore. Not necessarily being frightened until we start to get maybe towards the final act of the film. I loved it. I loved it. It was longer than what I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I think before we went on, I thought it would be like one of those 70, 75-minute films. It's a full 2 hour, I think an hour, 111-minute film, an hour and 51 minutes. I enjoyed every second of it. It's beautifully shot. Some of the, like when Eleanor finally makes a break for it towards the end, and I think she hits the top of the stairs, and she just comes face to face with that kneeling angel, because she's just surrendered to the house.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Great performances by everybody. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we picked this film.
And smart's the right word, Michael. It's a smart movie, the way they did this. I like the way you worded that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, the film starts out with the Eleanor character, and forgive me, I don't know all the lead actors' names. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. Julie Harris. Yeah, it's Julie Harris as Eleanor right there in the film, and she's this kind of, I don't know. She plays the mouse. It says throughout the film she kind of plays the mouse. She is the sort of, how would you describe her home life? Because you get this great like 5-minute scene that just describes what her entire life is. She's like almost like she's like Cinderella, the wicked sister who just kind of puts her down, and they've got her locked in this, sort of room, and all she's, like she has no privacy, living with her sister and her husband and her niece that is this little child under 10 years old who just constantly picks at her. And within 5 minutes, you just understand perfectly like what her total existence is. I'm like, wow, that's just great. They're not telling you, they're just showing you.
Yeah.
What do you think of that character? I mean,
she's the perfectly put upon woman type deal. They call her weak, but she took care of the mother when the mother was ill.
Yeah.
And had to have that type of strength.
Yeah.
When she was speaking up for herself, it was always half the car is mine, which I thought was a great line, as opposed to saying, "Oh, I paid for that too," and the way she was saying, "No, it's mine," or at least half of it is. Half of it's mine. I should get to use it too.
Yeah.
She's always sticking up for herself, but really no more. It's not like, I want to be free. I did my time with, taking care of my mother and what have you. She's perfectly put upon, and even the brother-in-law was more concerned about her when she was in that one scene saying, "Well, you know what's happened to you in your past," type deal. He makes a comment, which is lovely foreshadowing of what you're going to see from this character or about this character.
Julia, what did you think of Eleanor?
Well, she's a stand-in for the author herself, Shirley Jackson. She's a common figure in Shirley Jackson's novels, the put upon downtrodden middle-aged woman. She does stick up for herself, but she sticks up for herself in a very whiny sort of way.
Hmm.
Not in a firm, decisive sort of way, but in a,
Right.
please don't kick me sort of way.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it is true, she does stand up for herself and she does break out by herself, but she's dreaming of a very different future and she thinks
Hmm.
she'll find it at Hell's House. So the journey's end in lovers meeting bit that we get on her long, somewhat surreal car journey to Hell House is replicated in the book. And she's a dreamer. She hopes to find love. Journeys end in lovers meeting, she says over and over
Hmm.
again to herself.
Yeah, it's stop kicking me. It's a stop kicking me kind of, but then she gets kicked again. She
Yeah,
sticks up for herself, but she's not moving out and finding her own apartment. And I don't know whether maybe those things just weren't done. But then you sort
no,
of meet the inverse of her in the Theo character, who seems to be
yeah,
just a completely sort of, I hate to
Hmm.
use this term, like liberated woman. She just comes and goes. She's very
Hmm.
strong and she's,
mhm,
assertive and she's got a great sense of humor. She'll poke at you or, if you touch her, she'll be like, get the hell out, get away from me. Um,
Hmm.
and so they form this sort of like a weird symbiotic sort of relationship because they're sort of the inverse of each other.
Hmm.
And um, Eleanor is also someone who apparently experienced poltergeist activity when she was a child. You're
oh
right,
yes,
taking care of her sick mother for 11 years. You get the impression that the other sister, didn't help at all. She's off living her life. Um, it, it's weird, and I don't want to get hung up on this, but everybody realizes that within family dynamics, people have a role to play. That they become sort of, you can get stuck in a sort of role and what your expectation is. Whether I'd be with siblings or parents or these sorts of things, and yet she's very much at the bottom of that. Hold on a second, we've got some comments here. My pleasure sending the gifts. Oh, yeah, man. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie on the first watch. I absolutely did. Thank you, Eric. Slasher Fred, what's happening, man? I think what makes the original The Haunting so terrifying is that we don't actually see the ghosts, but we know that the spirits are there. Yeah, you absolutely see nothing.
Right.
It's not even Charlie Brown covered in a sheet full of holes in it, saying he got it on the rock. There's
Right.
absolutely nothing there. And very tense throughout the whole thing. So we have this doctor, Dr. Markway, who's assembling a team of 4 people to sit inside this house for a prolonged period of time to see if there is going to be some sort of phenomenon that they can scientifically document. What do you think of Markway?
It was weird because I remember the first time I saw him, I kind of thought, and this is again, I was a teenager ish. I kind of thought he was just like the milk toast professor.
Right.
But the more and more I see about him, I really understand that he was approaching it like an intellectual.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was trying to make money from it. It wasn't like he goes, we always keep saying there's something there. Well, let's actually try as a scientist, examine it.
Right.
And of course, he's going to be criticized and ridiculed by people because, again, what do you believe in ghosts? That type deal
Right.
is explained. But the way he approached it, there was no like he was off a little bit or he approached it like a scientist,
Yeah.
someone who is analytical.
Very
And I love the
cool.
way that, yeah,
Yeah.
and measured and very
Yeah.
cool, measured, and getting everything right.
Plus, he's British. So
Oh,
that
of
helped.
course, yes.
That helped. You got that evenness right there.
And the mustache.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
the stash working. That's a nice stash, and nobody can take that away from him ever.
Mhm.
Julia, what do you think of Dr. Markway?
I Well, I think we've got a character in search of a personality here. He's to me, he's a bit of a bit of a cipher. He's just there to explain things.
Mhm.
He does have the power to make Eleanor leave the house, or at least he thinks he does. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But
Well, 60 years, if they haven't caught it by now, that's all now.
well, yeah. I mean, he's a bit of a stock character, so he doesn't register too much on me. You know?
I found him to be one of the. I found him to be like he's the firm concrete in the,
Hmm.
in the story. He doesn't have any sort of preternatural ability, no poltergeist activity. He can't read people's minds. He's not like the other guy, Luke, who's the nephew of the owner, who's just waiting for them to die so he can cash in on the house. I mean, but he's sort of the bedrock. And so there's sort of a thought that, maybe he should be kind of boring, because he's the only one who's not going to just not only not react, but not overreact. He may be the one, who's probably not going to see everything or see anything or see the least amount of anything because he's the scientist. You want to see it all through Eleanor's and Theo's sort of eyes. And that's what we end up doing. Hold on a second. Slasher Fred says, in the movie, there is an implied homosexual relationship between the two female characters. And of course, this was way before movie makers could show it, so it had to be implied. I didn't pick up on that. Really? Did you guys pick up on that?
Did. Yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not massive in your face. And I don't think it's even suggested that they actually had sex together, but there was certainly a lot of flirting going on in the early days. Yeah.
Really? Because I picked it up as kind of like a sister, a big sister kind, little sister antagonistic kind of thing.
There was a scene, and I only found this after I had resaw the movie today. I did a little research on YouTube. There was an actual scene that was shot because you got to meet all the other two characters, like the way you met Julia's character, like through her sister and at her house. And for the other woman, there is a scene where you see basically she's yelling at out the window at a woman, and you find out later on that was her lover. And then as the camera pulled back on the mirror, you saw, "I hate you, goodbye," written in lipstick.
This is in the remake.
No, this was in the original. They cut the scene because they thought it was too strong.
Oh.
They didn't want to, and Wise didn't want to hit you over the head. He liked the subtle, innuendo of it. But what they talked about was that it was kind of like one of those moments.
Okay, Eric says, Fred's right. That's why Catherine Zeta-Jones was bisexual in the remake. I never saw the remake. Just never got around to it. I heard it's not good, which is really weird because it's got Liam Neeson. It's got, Catherine Zeta-Jones. It seems like it's got a strong cast. But maybe they went – I saw some clips. Maybe they went more for effects than they went for story. There were a few movies like that at the time. They went with that remake of 13 Ghosts with Jeffrey Rush, that kind of thing. So they all assemble in the house, and, it starts right off the first night with the banging of the door, which is the scene that I've seen when they always do the top 100, of all time movies. That's the scene they always show. But I had never seen it, in context. Effective. Scared the daylights out of you. It was, geez. Now that you guys have said that, now I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Theo looks a little
Oh,
too
it
happy
is
there.
said
Hold on
in
a
the
second.
movie that
Let,
Theo is living with another woman, though we don't hear why. Then there's
let me
also
give,
the scene where Theo's painting her toenails, and
Yeah,
glad we
Okay,
can
okay.
remove the curtain
and then
for you,
of course
Michael.
there's
Yeah,
that
I
line
appreciate that, John. Thank you, man.
where Eleanor calls her an unnatural thing like you, something like
Oh
that.
yeah. There is stuff like that. Okay,
Mhm.
now
Yeah,
is that a Shirley Jackson trope, Julia? I haven't read a lot of Jackson. I've only read The Lottery.
I don't actually recall if it's in the book. There's a
Okay.
lot of huge differences in the book. There are some very close female friendships, like
Mm-hmm.
We've Always Lived in the Castle, which is one of my. I think I like it better than I like her book, The Haunting.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little sister who's unnaturally attached to her older sister, so much so that she poisons the rest of her family so that she can be alone with her older sister.
You're right. That is
You know, so
unnatural.
you've
Okay.
got
That's a good Christmas movie. We can
Yeah,
start
we'll
that in
save that one
December.
for you.
Well,
Start
actually,
start
the
the New
movie
Year's off.
version's a bit shit. You know, that is sad to say, but the movie version is most definitely a bit shit.
Mhm.
Um,
We can call it
there's
Family
so
is a
many.
Pain. I love that. I do. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought there was, Michael, because I'm with you. I didn't get to read a lot of Shirley Jackson,
Yeah.
but a lot of people who I know have. It's kind of like the camps are divided.
Yeah.
They're like some say yes, there is. Can't you see it? And there's other people saying no, it isn't. Can't you see it? Type deal. There's
Well,
kind of like no in between ground. You either are or aren't.
It's a Rorschach test.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a Rorschach test. If you want it to be there, it's there. If you don't want it to be there, it's not there. If you don't know that it's there, then you're not paying attention anyway.
And the thing is,
So
even with this movie, it didn't hinder it if it was or wasn't there.
no, because
yes,
I
I
watched
mean,
the
it's
whole thing.
supposed
I
to
watched
be
the
pretty
whole
much the
thing, and
same story.
Yeah.
yeah, I watched the whole thing this right now, and I'm like, what? What are you guys talking? I just watched it. Like
Right.
I pulled the DVD out and came and set up and met you guys in the stream, and I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about? So yeah, I think it's one of those things. Hold on. Fred says exactly. And before we could show sexual relationships on film, we had to follow what was known as the Hays Code era.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh God, yeah. The Hays Code era was actually out before. If I'm not mistaken, they started rating films. You had to deal with certain things that movies really didn't start getting ratings before the
I'm sure the Hays
1960s.
Code was over and done with by the time this film
This was
was shot.
1963. I don't know
The
Hey,
much
Hays
but
about.
Code
that's
had such, and you see so many movies made in the 30s and 40s and early 50s where
mhm,
married couples have separate beds. That was the
right.
Hays
That
Oh
Code.
was the
yeah,
Hays Code.
If you sat
yeah.
on the
That went
bed,
up through
you
the
had to have one of
50s.
your feet on the
Mhm,
floor. That was
right.
also the Hays Code. You
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
That went through to the 50s. I mean, when you're watching the old Leave It to Beaver sitcoms, and Mom and
Mhm,
Dad had twin beds, and that kind of thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, by the early 60s, probably not. Although in this film, I did notice that everybody was in a twin. Well, no, because at first Eleanor starts out in a nice plush bed,
Right.
and then I think Theo comes in, and somehow they're in twin beds. I don't understand exactly how
Mhm,
that worked. Maybe I missed
that's
something.
because Eleanor moved to Theo's room because they were afraid of the ghosts.
Oh, that's
right.
right. That's right. That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Okay.
And it was back with the studio system. And when the studio started fading out and it started slightly becoming an independent film, you saw a little more expression, as you could say.
Yeah. Sure. 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 So, I mean, here's a question: Does
I have to apologise. The Hays Code was in effect from 1934 to 1968.
Mhm.
There.
okay? So yeah, this definitely would have applied. Here's a question though: Does Dr. Markway use them for bait? Is he a little mercenary, or is he just? I mean, are they lab rats?
Did you ever see, Michael? This is going to sound weird, but in a roundabout way. But did you ever see the movie Ghostbusters 2?
No, I never got around. Maybe,
There,
maybe,
I
maybe.
might have done. I might have
there's a
done.
scene. There's a scene where Egon is talking to uh, uh, one of the characters, and he's doing something different. It's a little girl playing with a puppy, and it's a very cute and adorable scene during this experiment. And then all of a sudden, you hear Egon goes, "Okay, take away the puppy," because they wanted to see the reaction of the child after they got the connection. And I laughed out loud because that was the coldest, cruelest thing you could do to this girl. And people looked at me and said, if you didn't get that joke, I'm not going to explain it to you. It was the way they set it up. To me, this is the same thing. He talked a very good game. But yeah, I think he knew if it was true, there could be trouble. But like a scientist, he kept it going.
What
He
do you
had
think?
to hold the experiment to the end.
Yeah, because I at some point along the way, I kept thinking that this was going to. Well, Julia, what did you think? Is Markway using them as lab rats?
Well, yes, I mean, it's quite obvious. He sent them a lot of questionnaires asking about their psychic experiences. They're there to record everything that happens, everything they experience, and to feed all the data back to him. So, of course, they're lab rats. That's why they're there in the first place. And there's no secret about this. They all know that.
Yeah, I think you're kind. He's not exactly a villain. He's just a scientist.
Yeah.
And so, like you said,
Yeah,
he views
not
those
a
things.
villain at all.
Yeah,
No, yeah, he's not a villain at all. And actually, that's what makes the movie work. Because normally, if you'd have a villain, you expect them to twirl that mustache,
yeah,
type
yeah.
deal. He's not. He's following it like a scientific mind would.
And he is trying to keep them out of the nursery room. He's trying to
Oh,
discover these things
their
for himself.
intention is to go into the nursery room later on, but
Right.
when they do go in, it's not planned. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
their hand is forced. Their hand is forced with it.
Mhm.
I don't know.
That's also good storytelling because there was no quote unquote villain that was
Yeah.
outside of the supernatural, so to speak.
That's what I was going to say. At one point, I kept thinking that this was going to turn into some sort of elaborate setup against Eleanor. Like everybody was in on it, except for Eleanor, and that something was going to be some like twist in the film. That this was some. I didn't know how that was going to pan out. But the idea that she was slowly breaking down seemed to almost be the point of it. And it is, but it's the point of the house. It's what the house is trying to accomplish, and not Dr. Markway, not Markway.
Right.
She really does a fantastic job. The whole, because she walks in there with so many issues. It's like the term a crackpot, it comes from a cracked pot. You would take a cracked pot and then it looks like a pot like any other pot, and then you start filling it with water. And then the stress and the pressure of the water starts to reveal in the pot where the cracks are, and so, she is just that type. And, there's no better example of that in the film than when Theo tells her, I don't think you killed your mother. She's been carrying that in her head, because for 11 years, maybe she didn't do something that, her mother needed. And, she carries this sort of unrealistic guilt within herself. That somehow she's responsible for her mother dying.
What happened was that she was. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Her
Go right ahead,
mother
boss.
used to call for Eleanor several times during the day and night, and Eleanor was absolutely exhausted. One night she heard her mother banging her stick on the floor to call Eleanor, and Eleanor didn't come, and in the morning her mother was dead. So to that extent, Eleanor thinks she might have killed her mother by not going to her when her mother was calling her.
And it was tied into the story that the male narrator was doing in the beginning.
Right, in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the caretaker didn't do the same thing. For the older woman at the time. I I actually did some caretaking for both of my parents when they both
Yeah.
were ill and everything else. And there was never times I said, "Oh, the hell with this, I can't do it." But it can be kind of draining. And I remember before a few weeks before my mother passed away, she turned around and told me, she goes, "I want to warn you because I don't know how long you're going to be taking care of your father." She knew she was
Yeah.
going to pass away before him. And she said, when he passes away, you're going to get hit with survivor's guilt because all of a sudden you're going to be able to go and do things you couldn't do, and you're going to feel
Yeah.
great. It's going to make you feel guilty because the reason why is that he's gone. So I always thought there was a tie-in with that a bit.
Yeah.
Since she's the one who lived after all this experience, she felt guilty. And she felt guilty over the fact that, she was able to go on. But then again, I think I'm going too deep on the psychosis.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I
Yeah.
mean, well,
You feel like you've done everything and everything else, and you go, and then all of a sudden you feel guilty because you now get to live, as it were,
uh,
type deal, or you get to enjoy it a
except
little bit.
Eleanor doesn't, though, does she? She ends up on
No,
her
she
sister's
still
living room
feels
couch.
she feels worse,
Yeah.
type deal.
The flaw in Eleanor is that she has nothing to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
That's
She's
why.
absolutely
That's why she
nothing.
resists.
Yeah.
She should have left the moment her name appeared on the wall. She should have
Mm-hmm.
left the house.
You
But
hear
she
that inner
stayed because
monologue.
she needed
Yeah.
somewhere to belong.
Yeah.
She needed somewhere
Mm-hmm.
to belong. And towards the end, she says, "Finally, I belong somewhere."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The when she first pulls into the house and you hear that inner monologue saying, "This is my last chance. I could just turn around right now and run. No one would fault me for running. Everybody's allowed to run away. That I'm being warned. This is it." But she has nowhere else to. Unlike everybody else in the story, she has nowhere else to go, and that's what makes it. That's what makes it sad.
What did she say? All I have is half the car and the box that's in the back. See,
Yeah.
she says that like one line, and I'm going, that was sad, type deal.
Now, Mike Flanagan came along years later and did a complete retcon of The Haunting of Hill House, which was about an entire family, which I just think is absolutely beautiful. I have it on Blu-ray over there. But this is a damn solid movie.
I agree.
It's a damn solid movie. Hold on a second. We got Slasher Fred here. One of the scariest scenes in the movie is when the woman feels like her lover is in bed with her, and when she sees that her lover is sleeping on the bed, in the bed that is next to her. Well, she's not next to her. She thinks they're sharing the bed
on the other side of the room.
Yeah, she's on the other side of the room, and she thinks she's squeezing her hand so hard. You're breaking my hand, because she can hear the children and all the screams and all this sorts of. And then she screams and she realizes she's across on the other side over there. It's it's a really good effect, and they do a great job of it by showing you little or nothing. Showing you little or nothing, and yet you're completely invested. The devil never pops up around the corner, or anything like that. And increasingly,
Except for the time when Eleanor suddenly jumps, having seen something on the landing, and it's her own reflection in the mirror.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
To an extent, when Eleanor is running through the house, pressing against the doors, knocking down the curtain rails, so on and so forth, she is doing much of the same thing as that the ghost was doing.
Right.
So I do get there is almost a feeling that Eleanor is herself haunting the house, but while she's still alive.
Or she's practicing to haunt the house.
Yeah, that was a point I was curious about. How much of it is the house, and how much of it is just Eleanor breaking down?
I'd
Or
say
is
50-50.
the house feeding off of Eleanor's psychic energy?
Could be.
Yeah. And sometimes, we talk about this, that it's good that not everything is explained.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that leaves it up to you. Is it the house? Is it
Exactly.
Eleanor? Is Eleanor feeding off the house? Is Eleanor just having a complete breakdown while these things are happening around her? At the end of the film, when Eleanor tries to make a break for it, is it Eleanor just like having a psychotic break in the car and ramming the tree, or is the house influencing her to do so? I'm inclined to think it's Eleanor. I'm inclined to think that it's just Eleanor having a breakdown and she can't face going back to that house again, so she just decides to ram the tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, the same tree from the very beginning.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that this is one of the other research things that I did, that this is story, the movie and the story itself was one of Stephen King's favorites.
Yes, it might have inspired The Shining when it comes.
That's
right
what I
down
was
to it.
thinking. After I read that, I'm like, of course, it may have inspired The Shining to incorporate the spirit into the house, or into the hotel type deal, especially of the boy in Stephen King's story. But it's that it leaves it up to you. Is it insanity, or is it, is it something more? And I love that. That's what they play with so well in this movie.
But it is also possible for both to be true.
Yeah. Like, it gives you enough of that hint that it does. It's a cliche line, so my apologies, but this is a thinking man's horror story, or a thinking person's horror story. It's not just jump scares and blood and and it's we can have this discussion afterwards, and I bet you we watch it again next week and come back to it, we'd come up with something else or more to it.
It's definitely a movie that you can easily watch again. Without any problem. It's not something that I would watch tomorrow again, but you could pick up things along the way.
Well, when you held up the DVD that Eric gave you, between this movie and House of Wax, I sat there and I said, "Oh, there's two movies I watch every Halloween." Like I try to watch both of those movies all the time, type deal.
They stand the test of time.
Exactly.
They just do. What did you think of the housekeeping pair? I can't remember their name.
Rosalie. I cannot remember who plays her husband, but the actress who plays the housekeeper is Rosalie Crutchley, and she's kind of Mrs. Danvers, only scarier.
I love that they're having the big argument, and she just kept listing the rules, like I'm clearing the table at 10 o'clock. Like she's just she's like a robot. It's just no matter what's happening, she's I'm not waiting on you. I'm done at 6. And then she goes, because everybody's in town, so no one can hear you when it's dark.
Yeah.
In the dark. And then she just smiles at you and walks away. I'm like, okay, that's a little on the nose, but okay.
Yeah.
It's just, it's good entertainment. It's good entertainment.
I liked it when they were doing the second speech. And the second time she did it. And I forget what it was. One person said something and you saw her smile. She kept still doing the speech, but she kind of laughed. And, all right, that's funny. There was a human side to her. But she still kept going. It was kind of like,
dear God,
I'm going to do it all the time. Point A, point B, point C. I love that.
Like her husband was just okay. He wants to argue. He's talking about city people think they're better than us. This, that, or the other. But she was great. She was great. Yeah. There was a scene where Luke comes in when he's supposed to be keeping guard over the nursery, and he comes in and takes a drink, and he shines that flashlight in the parlor. But I thought for a second that it was him, that it was the the gatekeeper. I thought it was the
Mhm.
guy. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing back in here? Jesus Christ, I really couldn't figure out, because that's when I still thought that everything was just an elaborate prank. My God,
That's funny.
what a
That
film.
is. Mm.
All right. Is there any point that you would like to bring up that we have not discussed about this?
Oh, where to start?
Oh, well then let's
Oh,
get to it. Come on.
okay. I'm just trying to sort of get my ducks in a row. Hugh Crane, who built the house, and wrote the book with all the scary pictures in, looks an awful lot like the work of William Blake.
Mhm.
Um, a filthy man who built a filthy house.
Yeah.
The statues and the companion is pointed out as Eleanor, the companion in the house of one of the sisters there. Um, so the parallels, when she invites Hugh Crane to dance, is she inviting possession, or
Mhm.
is she trying to court him in some way? In the film, Eleanor has got a bit of a crush on Dr. Marquay,
Yeah.
which
Oh yeah, she's got a major
in the
crush on
book,
Dr.
in
Marco.
the book, it's the Russ Tamblyn character that she's got a crush on.
Oh really?
Mhm.
So, they changed that,
Mhm.
possibly to suit the age of the actress. Also, in the book, the wife of Dr. Marquay is, in fact, a spiritualist who believes that the spirits are just troubled and she's a dreadful embarrassment to the doctor. But she
Mhm.
decides to stay in the haunted room because she wants to commune with the poor troubled souls. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you
Um,
think that? Hold on a second. That reminds me because you're talking about Eleanor trying to dance with the original host of the house, the
yes.
owner
Mhm.
of the house. Does Eleanor want to die? I think she does.
Possibly.
I think she has
She
a
might
real
not see she might not see it as dying.
right.
She
I
sees
was
it as
I do.
becoming part of the house.
mm.
Yeah,
She likes it there. Scary though it is, she likes it there.
I don't think she likes it. I think she's just so terrified of not wanting to go back home that this is preferable to going back and taking that couch
Mm.
again. Like she's like, I have nothing. Nothing ever happens to me. Finally, something has happened to me. She's terrified half of the
Mm.
time that she's in the house. But even that is, even being terrified is something happening to her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's something. It's
Well,
awful, but it's something.
and there was even some things that were happening to her that had nothing to do with the ghost. I mean, painting her toenails was the first time that they said there was that actually experienced that. Sitting and having the conversations with people. I
Yeah,
think she was going to
Yeah.
live there one way or another. Like if
Yes.
either she was going to live spiritually in the house as a ghost, or she was going to become the next caretaker of
Yes.
the
Well,
house type deal.
she did ask the host, the sort of son of the host owner, the Russ Tamblyn character, if
yeah,
she could stay.
Hmm.
She'll only she wants is her keep,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he says, "You're not the kind of woman I keep," which is like,
yeah,
ouch,
right.
you know.
But yeah, but
yeah.
Um,
she was
I
she
think
would
we
look
should.
to live anywhere.
Mm, I think
Yeah.
we should point out that I cannot remember the name of the young man, the son of the owner who hoped to live on Hell House, not in it. Is
Hmm.
that he's
Luke.
played by a guy who was a teen idol at the time. He was sort
Oh
of
yeah.
like cut price. Sorry, I don't
Hmm.
want to be rude about the man, but he was sort of like a poor woman's Elvis.
Oh
You
yeah.
see what I mean?
Hmm.
He was
Or was
considered
he?
to be extremely talented, and oh
Hmm.
yeah, he was a pop idol. So he was cast
He was
against
in
type
West.
there.
Yeah, he was in West Side
So,
Story, the movie,
oh
as
yeah,
well as being
it's
on the
normally a
Broadway
comedy
show.
relief.
Yeah,
The
that's what they
nice
did.
comedy relief boy, a singer and a dancer.
Are you talking about Russ
Hmm.
Not
Tamblyn?
my style,
Yeah,
but
Russ Tamblyn was a singer
talented.
and dancer.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
and he's in a way he's almost every man here
Yeah.
because He's the skeptic who, in the
Mm-hmm.
end, is convinced, and he shows that he really can act. He's not
Mm-hmm.
just a
Yeah.
teenage idol. And it's like the line that it needs to be razed to the ground and the ground sown with salt.
He
So
actually
he's
has one of the
completely changed his attitude.
he's also as an actor is one of the best one of the top 10 television lines. If you ever saw the original Hawaii Five-O, he
Yes,
was
I did,
Dano.
but I was like
When
7.
they say book him Dano, that was him. That was the
Oh, is
actor.
that him?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he
Good
was the
Lord.
original Dano. He was a younger actor who
Didn't connect them.
he was a Broadway dancer. I mean, no joke intended. That's why when you saw him going up the spiral staircase,
Smart, yes.
I'm going to turn this into a club, and all of a sudden he's going up the stairs. They told him go
Yeah,
up the stairs like you're dancing, but don't make it
yeah.
too showy, too flirt. That's
Mm,
why he was able to move up it so smoothly. Even though,
yeah.
yes, it was great for the movie, but he was able to go. And if you notice, I'm going, God damn, that guy could just glide. He glides right up the stairs.
Well, when
You
he
know,
does
Yeah.
that jump, when he jumps over the
yeah,
banister, when it's
Oh,
unstable, and
yeah.
he just lands
yeah,
right at his feet, I'm like, okay, that
yeah,
was pretty cool.
yeah. But
That was
he's
pretty cool.
that's who he was. And his daughter became a dancer, and now an actress and a poet. She had a couple shows in like the early 2000s and movies, but then became a writer. Amber Tamblyn or something like that. That was her
Oh, of
daughter. That was
course.
his daughter. If you ever saw the movie, TV show Joan of Arcadia on CBS in the early 2000s, or
No.
something about the four friends wearing the same pair of jeans.
Oh,
I can't remember the Tales of the Pants or something like that. It was she did all these early stuff in the early 2000s. So he just passed away about 2-3 years ago.
no, he's
Okay.
still alive according to
Oh, he is.
Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. I thought he had passed away.
Let's see. There's no death date recorded for
All
him.
right, because I just saw him like
I'd
on.
like to. If you've heard of Julie Harris, I'm going to Google this thing about her and Boris Karloff, but I believe she played Joan of Arc to his Boris Karloff.
Mm-hmm.
But you might have heard of a film called Cabaret with
Yeah,
Liza Minnelli.
yeah.
The original there's a film called I Am a Camera, and she plays the Sally Bowles character
Mm-hmm.
in that. So Julie Harris was
Mm-hmm.
a seriously well-respected
Oh,
actress.
yeah.
And Claire Bloom, another one, a very, very beautiful woman. Now,
Mm-hmm.
she ended up married to Russ Steiger, and there's a story here. I hope I can say fuck on your show. I can, can't I?
Too
Just
I
did.
late.
think we'll be
All right.
okay. Yeah.
Um, Anthony Hopkins had a massive crush on Claire Bloom. And
Yeah.
when he met Rod Steiger said to him, now don't forget, I fuck Claire Bloom.
Right. Right. But they were all talking about how they got
Establishing
this
his
cast.
territory.
They were all talking about how they got this cast together, and it was all kind of a fluke
Mm,
type
yeah.
deal. Like Julie Harris eventually sent letters to everybody after the movie was done,
Yeah.
apologizing because she kept a distance from them, so she would feel estranged, and that estranged feeling
Oh,
would
she's
show
a
in the
method
film.
actress.
Yeah, she was one of the older method actors. She wasn't like being aloof or sending notes, but she didn't like eat with them and everything. She stayed separated so she would keep that sense of isolation against them, type deal.
Right. Now,
Yeah, it
just
was a
to
bit.
clarify
Yeah.
here, Julie Harris played Joan of Arc in a
Mhm.
TV movie made in 1957 called The Lark, with Boris Karloff and Eli Wallach. Oh, Basil Rathbone was in it.
Yep.
Good Lord, that is a cast and
Mhm.
a half.
Mhm.
Donald Elliott, let's see who else.
Mhm.
That's the only ones that I've heard of. And so I must see that at some
Yeah.
point because it
My
sounds
mother
very
was a Julie
fascinating.
Harris fan, so ironically, I
Mm,
know a bit of her filmography. But
yeah.
I was kind of surprised because I'm like, really? She goes, I've always liked her. I just always did. Any movie she ever
Mm,
did and anything else.
yep. Yeah, I liked her too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other points about the film?
Um, I love the fact that there was a lot of sound, but not a lot of music.
Hmm.
The way
Yeah,
they
there's
used
yeah
sound
the
in this,
score. Yeah,
the way they used sound in this worked. Like they had actors running just outside of the shot, making the noise or dragging the chains. It was almost like a live theater production, as opposed to dubbing it in afterwards. So the actors were responding to the noises they were hearing, type deal.
Here's a question, because I want to keep this going for the rest of the month, not this stream, but I mean, pick a ghost story, pick a haunted house movie.
Well, we already did ours, Michael, a couple of years ago. The Changeling.
The Changeling, yes, okay, all right.
That was a good one. I really liked with George C. Scott.
Yes, it is. It's a fantastic film. That was early on.
Yeah, and the other one, Ghost Story, that they did in the '80s with Fred Astaire and John Houseman. That was a good interpretation of a ghost story.
No, the Peter Straub story, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Yeah,
yeah. I actually that was a very good one.
All right.
There was a couple. There was actually the Legend of Hell House with
Vincent Price.
No, there was one that was done, and I'm trying to remember his name. God damn it, I can't remember. He's another British actor who I'm drawing a blank on. He was he played Mordred in the original Camelot with Richard Burton. He was also in the Planet of the Apes films.
Okay, Roddy McDowall.
Roddy McDowall.
Oh, okay.
They did one
Lord.
where it's the same
I'm
thing.
just kicking myself for not remembering Roddy McDowall because
I know, and I blank up, but it was another one. It was similar to this. 4 type of people lock themselves in a haunted house. Roddy McDowall is a psychic, and he has to try to protect himself. And
that's based on the Matheson book. Richard Matheson. Yeah.
Yes, and if we're going to pick a haunted house movie, we have to do The Legend of Hell House.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find it. Let's see if we can. You know what else is good? Do you remember Burnt Offerings?
Yeah.
With Oliver Reed.
Yes.
Reed.
That's another one.
Definitely.
Yeah. Would you like to do that one next week?
I'm
it's available. It's available on Tubi.
Perfect. That
Julia
scared the hell out of me.
You do know that Tubi is available. It's Oliver Reed, Elizabeth Perkins, Betty Davis.
Yep.
Betty Davis is in that. Julia, you do know that they have Tubi in the UK, right?
We don't have Tubi in the UK.
I just saw on Google it said that you did.
Oh, good Lord. Tubi enters the UK streaming landscape with a free, diverse, and massive collection of movies and TV.
Julia.
Well, looks like that's my next.
Julia, you'll be down that rabbit hole until
Michael, send this to Tubi. It's a commercial.
You know. Julia just found Tubi. Okay.
There you go.
So that's even better than the movie. That's even
better
than
the
Burnt
Offerings.
Look at the smile on the face there. She's like, "Oh, I got Tubi."
Movie, The Others. The Others.
We already covered that. We already covered that one.
Bollocks!
That was early on. That was before you came on board.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do it again.
I'd love to do Crimson Peak. Del Toro's Crimson Peak.
Count me out. Count me out. What a piece of...
I love it. It's just beautiful to watch. Visually, it's stunning to watch.
Michael, you should do a spin-off series called American Werewolf Julia's Edition and go back over movies that we have done so she can get her opinion in.
Well, I also would love to do Del Toro's The Devil's Backbone.
There you go.
Which is one of the better. I love that movie. I own it. But I don't know of anybody else that has it, and it doesn't stream anywhere. But
I've got a couple of more suggestions, if I may. One is We Are Still Here in 2015. It's got Barbara Crampton in it. The other one is The Witch in the Window.
I just like the title itself.
2018.
All right.
Which,
let's look at this one for right now.
You really should.
Julia, does Tubi have Burnt Offerings?
Still looking.
I'll find it on YouTube. The revive.
No, it's on Tubi. It's on Tubi right now.
Okay.
It's on Tubi right
I've
now.
got
Because
a
that's
feeling I
another thing
might.
too.
No, I've got
I
the
don't want
book,
to have to
not the
pick
movie.
things that are on premium channels that people have to pay for. You know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Burnt Offerings is apparently on Tubi.
Well,
There you go.
next week, same
Let's
bat
do it, burn
channel.
it. Same bat time.
All right, and this time I will have Screen the
Oh,
Movie.
I'll be notified by email when it becomes available.
It's not available.
Oh well. No.
I'll double check and see if it's on YouTube because something like that should be on.
Hold on, let me check now.
I think the Mexican horror movie Terrified, if you haven't done it already, is a good option.
Hold on.
What's that one about, Joe? What's Terrified
Well,
about?
basically, Terrified is a Mexican. I think it's Mexican. Horror movie.
Hold on, wait, hold on.
Basically,
I don't want Julia. Hold on a second. I don't want to cut you off, but Burnt Offerings is free on YouTube.
There you go.
oh, cool,
It's
cool.
free. Part of like YouTube movies. You know, they have that movie like free stuff. It's free. It's not even a bootleg. Their free copy is right there on YouTube.
Actually, the
Oh, splendid.
the one I saw right for this show, I actually saw it on YouTube. I didn't know it was on Tubi.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can find some haunted house movies because I want to find things that are
I'm all
accessible
for
to
that.
people. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So next week, Burnt Offerings.
Burnt
Some
Offerings.
Oliver Reed. We haven't done nearly enough Oliver Reed on this. we did do the old Hammer classic, Curse of the Werewolf. But I love Oliver Reed. It's just fucking cool to watch. He was a beast, man. He's an absolute beast.
Dude, I think the first time I saw this movie, I was in high school, and it was in a drive-in movie theater. Back in the days of drive-in. When you it went in your window. It didn't even have like the AM.
Yeah, I remember you had that little hook that hung on the inside of your window. Yeah, I've been to many a drive-in. I got you. All right. Is there anything about this film that we have not discussed that you would like to get into? One final point, anyone?
Well,
I love Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, the film was used. The exterior of Hill House was a place called Harlexton Manor in England, and the Great Hall served as the games room scene. I don't actually recall a games room, but the rest other interiors were done at a place called Beaver Castle. And if you find yourself in Grantham, Lincolnshire, you can always go along and take a look at the house.
There you go.
I believe in ghosts enough not to go. Yeah, so that's all right, John, last point.
I love the fact how they went from very broad, wide shots, and then they got real close. Like all of a sudden, there's one of the things I noticed. Like when it was not like when it was during the day, it was wider shots and things like that. But when it was dark in the room and everything else, they got real close to the people to show their expressions. They kept it very minimal, but it made it to me scarier because they were concentrating on the face. So I feel in this movie.
All right.
Nice touch of camera work.
All right. Let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather eat a cup of mayonnaise than watch this movie again, all the way to 5, which is this is cinema, this is the destination, this is why I watch films in the first place. Let's go with ladies first. Morgan Scorpion, what would you rate Ray Wise's The Haunting?
Out of 5?
Out of 5, yes, miss.
6?
A 6?
I can't do 6. It's definitely a 5.
A 6?
Oh, come on. It's one of the best movies ever made.
Okay.
It's one of the best movies ever made.
I think we've made history here tonight. The first 6 in 248 episodes. Okay. That honor belongs to you, young lady. All right. Very nice. 6. John, what do you got for me?
Never to be one to go up against Julia. I was
No,
going
I
to give it
wouldn't
a
try it.
5. I was going to give it a 5, but if she's giving it a 6, I'm giving it a 6 too.
A 6.
This is
Another
one of the
6.
few. This is one of the few horror movies that I've ever seen that every time I catch it, I don't like want to fast forward through a boring part because
Yeah.
there isn't a boring part.
There were a couple of times I got up to make coffee or to grab something because I was having, like, I literally ran in the house from work, took the dog out for a walk, sat down, and a couple times I got up and, like, I missed a few lines here and there, but I could tell that they were dialogue. But I feel that I missed something. And I did. So at some point I'll have to watch it again when, I'm not so pressed for time. For me, staying within the parameters of my own setup, I'm going to go with a 4.5.
Okay.
It's very, very well done. It's beautifully shot. It's not grainy or anything like, or maybe that's just the quality of the video transfer that I got. You've got some very good performances. Even the doctor he's not too stiff. Like you said, he's just playing it scientific. I love the fact that we've got an unreliable narrator as the main character. I love the fact that you're still not sure exactly what's happening, even now as we're talking about it. Yeah, is it Lawrence of Arabia? No, it's not. Is it The Exorcist? No. Is it Rosemary's Baby? No, but it's damn close. It's damn close. So I'm going to go with out of 5, 4.5. I would highly recommend it. It's available right now, as John was saying, for free on YouTube. So watch it. In fact, I might put the link to the description for YouTube and from Tubi in there so people can watch it. Go check it out. All right. John, do you got anything you want to plug?
No, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, the director of this film was a fraternity brother.
Is that right?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the famous crows.
Okay.
I got to double check on that one. So,
okay,
if someone finds out, I'll apologize.
Put it in the texting group. Let us know.
You got it.
Julia, what's going on with Morgan Scorpion's YouTube channel, Rumble? What's happening?
Well, Morgan Scorpion's YouTube channel is on hiatus until I can be bothered to do something more for it. Long story, but put it this way: if you really, really, really want to listen to me read ghost stories and horror stories, there's at least 500 of them already recorded up there on my YouTube channel. But I'll probably record something again one day, but don't know when.
Are there film adaptations of M.R. James?
There were a lot of ones made for the BBC TV.
Oh, I'd love to see some of those.
A long time ago. You can buy them. I'm not sure if they're available in the US, but I'm sure you've got a region-free DVD player.
Yeah.
So the Ghost Stories of M.R. James was part of BBC's Ghost Stories for Christmas. And I loved them. I grew up on them. I used to look forward to them every year. And the version they did of Lost Hearts was especially good. And then there's one version with Michael Hordern of Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. There's a TV movie of Casting the Runes made with Ian Cuthbertson, but the original movie version of it was Night of the Demon, starring Dana Andrews, with a guy called Niall McGuinness playing Carswell, doing this wonderfully understated performance, which, although he's not scary, it's scary in the long run when you realise that he is himself very afraid of the forces that he's allied himself with. So I would say that is a must-see movie, and also watch the English version, Night of the Demon, not the American version, Curse of the Demon, because the American version has a quote-unquote subplot cut out of it, but it's actually a very important part of understanding the plot.
Oh, okay.
Also, if you go onto YouTube, Christopher Lee reads some of M.R. James's stories, a shortened version,
Oh,
and
really?
so does Robert Powell. And they're both are
Mm-hmm.
very much worth listening to. But also, just point out that I have recorded quite a few M.R. James myself.
Yes.
There's also the M.R. James podcast, which they've done all the M.R. James stories, so now they're doing some of the stories of M.R. James's contemporaries. So I'd strongly suggest you listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Ghosts and Scholars series of they're not e-zines, they're little privately published magazines. So the Ghosts and Scholars for anybody who's really, really into M.R. James.
Mm-hmm.
Lady called Rosemary Pardo is in charge of those. She's also written some ghost stories in the vein of M.R. James. Then there's an author called A.N.L. Munby, who. Why are you grinning?
I'll tell you when you finish.
Who totally adored M.R. James and imitated him shamelessly and did some pretty good attempts, including Herodes Redivivus, which is also on my YouTube channel.
There you go.
And I think I've run out, but there's more, but I can't remember them.
Mm.
The reason I was smiling is because I was remember something Ryan said one time, and he's like, "Why don't we have any? Why aren't there any girls on this channel?" And I said, "Well, we have Julia, because if I had to listen to some
I'm a
fucking bimbo,
65-year-old girl, gosh.
that's exactly right. And if I had to listen to some fucking bimbo try to talk to me about fucking Terrifier 3, I'd have to fling her from the fucking gates like something out of a biblical fucking Castaway." But instead, I can
You
actually
should
hear.
get Cat Pulver on again. She's no bimbo.
No,
You
no,
should
she's
really
not.
get Cat
We have
Pulver on
to.
again.
You and I are going to have to talk because we're going to have to figure out how to coordinate that. Because we were talking about it, but it's difficult for her for reasons. It's difficult for her to screen a film. So I'm not sure how to.
Yes.
I'm not sure how to address that. You and I are going to have to get into that. I'd love to have her back on. She's great. You have to have a fucking brain to get on here, unless you're Patrick. In which case, he just keeps fucking showing up anyway. But, I can't control everything. But, okay. So, for this channel, it looks like next week we're going to be back with Burnt Offerings.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That scared the shit out of me. 1976, Betty Davis, Oliver Reed, Elizabeth Perkins. Sounds real good to me. That'll be $249. $250. I promised Bengal episode 250 would be the original Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
And I have to figure out a way to squeeze that in, because Bengal's working like 3 jobs right now. So I have to coordinate with him, and maybe we'll do that like on a Monday. Because he's like, I think he's teaching night classes, and then he's doing something else. And he's like, October's going to be real bad for me until like November. And, then that'll free up some time. So I have to figure out something with that. I've been turning over to interviews, man. And interviews have just been really great. I've landed a couple of whale interviews that are coming up. Having nothing to do with horror. I'm just enjoying talking to people. Yesterday's episode with Spider Dabrowski. Spider just dropped his own movie, writing and directing. He got Eric Roberts to star in it. He got Doug Jones to star in it from who played Abe Sapien and all those Hellboy films. He got Bai Ling to star in it. He got Alexis Knapp to star in it. So, I mean, I was telling him before we finished, he is not the same as he was when I first met him, because he got to write and direct a Tubi original film. This was something else entirely, and it's cool to see him grow. I had Tony DiGirolamo from South Jersey Folklore talking about the Jersey Devil on here last week. That was fantastic. The week before that, I had Dave Park on here. I've got a bunch of other people coming up, so I'm doing that. I always want to connect with you guys, though, and to keep doing what we've always been doing. So I'm looking very much forward to Burnt Offerings. And Julia, if you're interested in Night of the Living Dead, I'll let you know in advance when it's going to drop. And
I'll need to watch that again. But yeah.
It's funny because part of the care package that Eric sent that included this was the remake with Tony Todd, which is not a bad film. But
no, it's not.
No,
I liked it.
yeah,
I liked
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's hard to argue with Tony Todd,
Mm.
but nothing matches that original film.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
Well, the remake wasn't as scary as the original one. It was.
no.
It read more like an adventure story than a horror movie.
I think you're right.
But I'll watch Tony Todd in almost anything.
Yeah, one of the best, and I think it was just me and Rod. One of the most enjoyable streams I've ever had on here was talking to Rod about the original Candyman.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I love that fucking movie. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
He's so good. Because he just has this weird gravitas that, he never really got his due. Like a James Earl Jones or somebody like that. But it's there.
No, he's not dead. He's not dead. Give him time.
I mean, I've even saw him on Star Trek: The Next Generation. He had a recurring role, and I'm going, even with all the heavy makeup, I'm going, you can't cover that energy, that presence.
No,
he stands there, and he's so right on.
He did a great audio version of Dracula. He gets to play the king of the vampires in a
nice.
It's a shortened version. It's a shortened version of Stoker's classic. But yeah, I mean, imagine Tony Todd playing a Transylvanian fucking count. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty
Dude,
sweet.
if I could find a copy of one of the first shows I enjoyed staging or helping to stage with Cape May Stage was, we had a director come down here who was directing a show, and he was reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. It reminded me of you seeing The Mummy for the first time. He said he never read it, and he was reading it. He was reading it on the beach. He was about 30, and he started writing a one-man version of the show called Dracula, the Journal of Jonathan Harker. And it's the point of view of Dracula told from Jonathan Harker's view. And if I can find a copy of that script or a copy of that show, I'll send it to you to watch. The way that is told, it is told, the concept of the way the guy wrote it was like, we're at the campfire, we're telling the story of Dracula to a bunch of kids, and it's at night, that type deal. That story holds up so well. It's an underrated. The book itself is very underrated.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is and it's on YouTube. It's free. There's a beautiful animated Dracula.
Cool.
On there. If you look it up and just say Dracula animated, I think it's in 2 parts. It's like 2 45-minute videos. Somebody took the time to just craft this amazing fucking animation and just put it up on YouTube for everybody to see. I'll put it in the texture group, Julia. I'll DM it to you. You can find it there if you'd like to look at it. I'll do it tonight. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, let's wrap this up here. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. My thanks to Morgan Scorpion. Thank you for shooting the shit on this film as always. We will see you all in the next video. All right, take care, everyone. God bless you.
Burnt offerings.
Goodbye. Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video. Leave a comment.